in the majority of lender in your country. How important will that be to solidify the social fabric in order to tackle the pandemic? Thank you.
Opening schools in a majority of Länder in Germany, and what effect that has on the attitude of the population regarding the pandemic and the efforts to fight the pandemic. You reported about it, you wrote about it, that general desire, understandable desire of many families and children, last but not least children, to reopen kindergartens and schools, primary schools. Perhaps in the direction of Geneva, we should say we don't have a flat, a blanket regulation. We have federal states in Germany, and I think we have 10 of those states now that have this morning primary schools and kindergartens. That is, all of that is evaluated continuously to note whether this creates additional risks, and on the basis of that we will see other Länder following suit, perhaps take it to a second stage. But as I said, it's a carefully monitored process. To be honest, I think it is way too early to comment today about the attitude or to draw conclusions with regard to the social fabric and the attitude of the general population, because we will have to await for the developments of infection figures and numbers in the weeks and days to come. At the end of the day, it's not only figures or numbers that people look at. They not only focus on whether schools are being reopened or not, but what they want to do is to have a slow return to what we consider to be normal life. But whether that is possible depends on whether we can succeed in further reducing the numbers of infections in the days and weeks to come. I have a question addressed to both of you, Mr. Tedros, Mr. Federal President. You spoke of the funds. Following question: did you perhaps talk about this today, or do you think it ought to be discussed more openly? To what extent the licensing of vaccines should be made possible, opening up patents, that is? And Mr. President, if I may, because you spoke of the risk of variants and mutations, that people are growing weary and tired of everything. So the tone has become harsher. It's been harsh quite for a while. Also online, virologists and experts are being increasingly subjected to attacks. What kind of that development, and to urge people to keep their focus and not develop in a way that is not beneficial for any society. What I will take with me from our discussion this morning is that the COVAX initiative does not want to achieve a 100% fair and equitable distribution of vaccines, but it departs from a realistic perspective, saying that we ought to strive, we ought to try to use the funds that have been made available to the COVAX initiative now to, especially or in particular in the poorer countries of the world, equip health care workers with vaccines, but also with protective equipment, for example. WHO has noted that all of these countries have extremely weak health structures, and